Live.
We are.
So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Stephanie. How are things with you?
Good. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a busy day. We fly tomorrow. We're getting over to Europe for a week.
Are you going to England? Where are
Going
you
to
headed?
Switzerland first and then England.
Okay,
Yeah. So,
good.
but next week is I'm off. Like, I'm going to do a fun like few notes on Substack, but that's it. It's going to be very chill.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Pure vacation.
Yep. We're going to do it. So
Good.
let's see. People join. Um, that's fine. But let's go ahead and kick it off. I'll introduce you to. So I'm thrilled to be doing this live. This is Alan. Alan, how do you pronounce your last name?
Mukbel, as it's spelled.
Oh, it is as well. Okay, awesome. So we met just a few weeks ago, but we really hit it off because a lot of our topics are the same, or not the same, but we talk about a lot of the similar things from different perspectives, which is fun. But Alan has spent decades studying what it means to remain functional when life gets really chaotic, and he's a martial artist, and the author of your upcoming Steady When It Counts, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
His work explores how pressure, awareness, regulations show up not just in physical confrontations, but in ordinary life. He's based in Mexico, and he writes on his Substack, Train, Adapt, Endure.
yeah.
So welcome. It's glad to connect
Thank
with
you.
you.
Likewise, it's a great introduction. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And what was it that brought us kind of together? Topic on anger, right? Because I
Yeah,
just written an article about that, and kind of like got together and talked about that. But yeah, I'd love to get in a little bit on how you got into writing and how you think about anger.
writing. I've always wanted to blog, and since Web 2.0. So we're talking about when WordPress started coming out, when bloggers started coming out. And I was like, oh yeah, I can write and share and whatnot. And I would never know what to write about. It was I would start being too technical about how to punch and how to do this. I'm like, yeah, but you can't really explain that written. And then I would stop and would try a different angle, and then would stop again. So when Substack appeared, I started looking into it. A few of the people I follow moved to Substack, so I started following them on that. I'm like, hey, that's interesting. So I can maybe try here instead. And and I've always wanted to look at martial arts as a parallel to life, and how what we learn in martial arts, I train karate, but I say martial arts in general, is a reflection of what happens in life. And maybe as a microcosmos within the academy, but it can reflect on whatever else happens in life. So I started digging and writing and trying to find my voice, and little by little, it used to be called a martial arts newsletter because I didn't know what else to call it. And as I started to work on it, I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm talking more about how to face challenges and adversity. And that's something that's 100% martial arts is how to, you have someone in front of you, how do you beat that person, and that person being the obstacle. And so how do you do that in life? And that's kind of the angle I'm taking, and kind of the approach I want to take on my Substack.
I love that so much. So it's like martial arts as a life. So these lessons that you learn. Because when did you start getting into martial arts from childhood, right?
I started, no, I was 18 years old.
18. Okay.
Uh, so close to 30 years now, it's like 27, 28 years.
Okay. Yeah. So the lessons and the things that you learn from that and applying it, like adversity and these things, that's something that everybody faces, everybody goes through. So I love the idea that you're applying that in a different setting, but it's the same lessons.
It is. And what I noticed is that the way I respond to some situations, I'm usually calm and kind of figure out the solution. And maybe that's the engineer in me, that's my profession. So the engineer looks at a problem, dissects it, finds a solution, fixes it. And so maybe those two together help. Um, but I've noticed that how sometimes people panic or get a lot of anxiety or stress about things, and I'm just looking at them and, why are you anxious about this? We just do this and that's it. And this is, you don't add emotion. And one thing about karate, when you spar and once you fight, is you don't want to bring emotion into the sparring session. You don't want to fight with anger. You don't want to fight with fear, because you'll make a mistake, you'll get hurt. It just doesn't help. So you learn that intuitively as you start learning and growing in martial arts. Same thing with any art. And that's why I say martial arts, not just one specific style, but you learn. And the more you are into your emotions, the less you perform, and the more you're able to stay into your head and see what's going on, the better the outcome of the sparring session or the fight in this particular sense. So when I see that with life in general, when you have somebody cutting you off, I used to be prone to road rage, not so much anymore. And living in Mexico, that's a thing, that road rage is rampant. It's everywhere. And it's understandable because everybody's stuck. Everybody wants to move. Everybody wants to go home. Everybody's desperate. You say, you honk, you do, you just, whatever small little things can set anybody off. And that can eventually lead to something worse, right? People get out of their cars, people fighting, people yelling at each other. I saw one bus driver just coming out and swinging a baseball bat. I mean, weird, strange things. But you look at it and you're like, okay, that makes sense. You've been stuck for 2 hours. You're not moving. You just want to move. Everybody is in the same boat. Just because I honked at you, or just because I yelled something at you, then everybody freaks out. So it's situations that work, same thing, that kind of stuff. So I started looking and noticing how I behave in some situations and how other people that might not be training in martial arts behave, and I'm like, okay, there's something there that I learned that could be benefit that person to calm down, chill, and try to figure out how to solve a problem.
Right. And so that's what you're doing now is you're isolating those learnings and trying to help because some of us have not studied martial arts, right? There are some things in there. I mean, what would you say is one of the key learnings that you learned from martial arts that you were able to apply, but more than that, like help other people apply those learnings? What would you say is one thing that's made a big impact?
I'd say repeated exposure to stress. When you train regularly and you're fighting a lot, you go through it at the beginning, those feelings of fear and anxiety. I don't want to get hurt. I want to win. I want to show the teacher that I can. You have all these kind of mixed feelings, and little by little, you start to stop feeling those feelings and just fight. And but that only happens because you've done it so many times. And let's take a regular example. I present a lot of work. I give conferences, I give trainings. And the first few times I did it, I was stressed out. I would mumble, I would, stutter, find my words. And it's been 10 years now I do this. And now I give a presentation I barely need to prepare. All I have to do have a sense of what I want to talk about. And I just go. And people, oh, you're a good teacher. You explain well. Yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years. And because I've been exposed to it and given conferences and trainings and presentations regularly, now it's second nature to me. So same thing for stress, same thing for a difficult situation. If you are exposed to an environment that helps you train, that's where train, adapt, endure comes from. You train yourself. For example, de-escalating, you can train that. How do you train that? How do you practice that? Well, you can practice with your partner, with your kids, with people at work. There's a little bit of a conflict. Okay, I'm going to try this strategy and see if it works. And you kind of try to work that out. So if hopefully never it happens, but somebody comes at you, you have some practice with the escalation because you've done it in a safe environment, right?
Okay. Yeah. So this is
Right?
the idea of learning a tool kind of scanning for opportunities to practice it. Okay, they're not necessarily looking because they
Yeah.
come in life, but you're
Right.
experiencing this and you're like, hey, this is a good opportunity to practice this tool. And is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. Exactly. So it's the training part, it's the practicing part, right? It's being exposed to that stress. If you want to become a good public speaker, find opportunities to talk in public, right? And practice and go to Toastmasters. That's what they do. You go and work, and who wants to give the presentation? Raise your hand. Yeah, I want to practice. Same thing with writing. You want to write better, you write more and more. You want to read better, you read more and more. So it's the same concept. You want to be able to manage a difficult situation. Don't necessarily put yourself in a difficult situation, But when a situation arises, don't shy away from it and try to manage it. You know?
Yeah, there's something else there about like of instead of fighting those because sometimes they're unavoidable, and you're
Yeah.
just like, well, okay, this is what it is right now. Can I from a different perspective other than like let's get out of here as quickly as I can, but like let's learn from this and use this as a bit of an exercise opportunity, growth.
Right. Well, I mean, okay. So if you are in a difficult situations, you want to get out, but that also requires practice, right? To detect the danger beforehand, to find exits, to not be stuck in a crowd, to manage a crowd. These are all stuff you can practice. How can you practice? You go to a concert. How do you manage the crowd in the concert? You're in the grocery, you're in the bus station, you're in the metro. There's crowds. How do you learn? How do you manage? You start looking, you start paying attention. You're not there on your phone looking at the ground. Like it's you know what I mean? Like it's you use the everyday events to practice awareness, to practice exposure, so that if one day it happens, then you have it's not a surprise to you.
Yeah, yeah. I see my friend Jen just joined as well. Hey, Jen, and I'm
Right?
cracking up a little bit because the perspective and why I'm talking to you about this so much is again you're coming at it from a physical perspective. There's a safe, like a physical safety thing, and
Yeah.
I take the approach of like the more the psychology. There's a psychological component to this as well, and sometimes it's safer to play, and sometimes it's not safe to play. So to your point, like if you're really unsafe. You need to manage that. Yeah, and Jen also says I think there's a gender component. Yeah, I mean, it's true. There is a bit of a I mean, I do think it's a bit more challenging in the world to navigate as a I'll say a woman, but you could take this a couple of different angles, but there are different ways that we view things like safety and other people in crowds that um, is different. But I love this two angles coming in on this topic. Yeah.
Struggle sometimes with gender is because yes, there's differences. Women are smaller, men are bigger. If I go to a concert with my wife, she's behind me and I'm acting as a screen. Clear. She's not going to do that for me. That's logical, right? My son is getting bigger. He's 13 years old. He's almost her height, and now he's acting as a screen for her. Before, she was the screen for him. So where's the gender there? She's the mom, he's the kid. So it's more, right? But if I'm there with the three of them, I'm the screen for both of them. So
Yeah.
it's more of as a who's capable and who's not.
Yep, that's fair. Yep.
You know,
Also,
for
uh,
example, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say it's also like if you're black belt trained, it doesn't matter who you are if you've got that. But I think it is interesting. So like my dad, for example, when I was growing up, would be like, okay, if somebody needs help, but you're by yourself, you just keep going because even though you might be capable of helping them, it's too risk. If if it was my brother, it might be different. You can assess the situation. If a person on the side of the road needs help, you might pull over and help them. So there's just this lens, maybe caution that is slightly different for I'll say women, but kids point too.
Yeah, I understand. I understand, but even that would correct your dad and say, does helping does not necessarily mean that you get involved.
Yeah.
So you and your brother can help the person by calling 911,
Of course. Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
And don't get involved. You see someone getting assaulted, you don't get involved. You don't know what's going on. It's a
Eh,
different situation.
Yeah.
There might be a weapon, there might be a gun, there might be a situation you don't know them, you don't know what's going on. The way you help is you call the cops and they
Yeah.
bring it. And you can stay away, act as a witness, you know, if you want to, or as soon as the cops come, you leave. Whatever you're comfortable with. Um, I'm trained for almost 30 years. I'm not looking for fights, and especially when I'm around my family, I'm not there. My son was when I was younger. It's like, oh, you're gonna do it? No, I'm not gonna do anything. We're gonna go home, And
Yeah.
there's, my goal is to be home, happy and safe, and with my family. That's my goal. Not try to show off that I can fight and I can, break your neck or whatever you name it, right? But if I need to and I feel this danger, I think I can respond. Whether or not I'll come out perfectly well, I don't think so. But it's a fight in the street is a fight in the street, and with everything that comes with it. But it's there's other ways. What I'm saying is that you want to
Yeah.
be a a good Samaritan, there's other ways to do that. You don't get into a fight, you try to find alternatives.
Yeah, there's a level of discernment and wisdom in that as well. Absolutely. So we are talking about on this as well, and I'm wondering why anger is like why is it piece of information? A lot of people have a lot of attitude about emotion in general, but I feel like anger in particular, people have a lot of strong. I am not angry, or anger is bad, and so maybe we can get into how you view anger to start with.
Anger. When anger is, I think, the one phrase I learned, was a part of a men's father club thing. And one thing that came out of one of those sessions was that anger is a secondary emotion. It hides the true emotion. So when you're angry, you could be offended, you can be feeling lonely, you could be, let's say, not listened to. So, for example, let's say, I'm trying to talk to my wife, let's say, let's just use that as and she's busy with a million other things and she's not paying attention. I get angry. But I'm angry because she's not paying attention. I feel that I'm not being listened to,
Yeah.
right? That's the actual feeling, that not the anger. The anger is a mask hiding hiding the primary emotion. So that feeling of loneliness, disconnection, generates that initial anger that could then bother or escalate to something else. Uh, Last time we spoke, we talked about of anger.
Yeah.
This is a book. I
Yep.
found it. There's one line in there that I think demonstrates very well what I'm trying to say. He goes, "Mankind is born for mutual assistance. We're a tribal species.
Hmm.
Anger for mutual ruin. So while the former loves society, mankind, the latter estrangement. Anger is eager to punish," which gives a different perspective. It's one thing to feel frustrated or feeling disconnected. Anger just bring that to a different level. That is like, okay, I'm trying to protect myself, and to do that, I'm gonna do something, and that do something is usually bad. It's not a good action, generally speaking. It's
It feels,
yelling. It's
yeah, it feels like anger is the sort of primitive, immediate response,
yeah.
and then something under it that I don't know if many people get to that second layer. Like, how do you find to move from the anger into the real reason for the anger?
It's a good question. It's hard. Um, I needed to work on it a lot, and journaling helped me. Is I would write and just get it out, and then slowly you kind of slow down, you calm down, and then the actual emotion comes out as you continue to evaluate or um, analyze what you're feeling, right?
Mhm.
Um, Counseling can help, coaching can help. Um, it's I feel is to find the ability to detach from the emotion, to look at it from outside. This is when you realize something else is going on. But if you're
Yep.
staying in that bubble kind of blinds you to what's going on, and you're not able to move on. So you as a coach, it's a perfect kind of role for that. Like, people are sharing, I'm angry for this, and that. Yeah, but did you see this? And because you have that ability, is because you're detached. You're not emotionally attached to the situation or the person that you're talking to. So you're able to see things clearly, and that's, I think, the hard. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
difficult. I've
Yeah.
had a lot of help.
And there's a reason that it's hard as well, because if you think about when your nervous system is activated, right? And when you're angry, you've got your sympathetic nervous system is going on, and your brain is changing your body hormone, stress. One of the things it's doing is it's narrowing your vision. It's just like into
Right.
survival mode. So you're like, I don't know
Right.
what's happening right now, but I'm in survival mode. I'm not thinking clearly, and I'm gonna get myself out of this situation, whatever that looks like. But you're not rational, and you don't have your full like prefrontal cortex kind of offline at that point. And that's the sort of thing that's where you need to be. Whatever can kind of pull you out of that more balance and the nervous system, that can help. And like you said, it is tricky and it's different for everybody.
It
But
is.
a deep breath. Sometimes it is like a physical thing too. Like you can go for a run, go out in nature. I used to do boxing. There's a little component there where you're just like letting it flow, and maybe
Yeah.
that's another segue too. Because I think when people are angry, they tend to push down sometimes if they can, and then or they'll have a little moment and they don't address the unmet need or what is behind anger, and then kind of get manifest deeper and deeper, and so it never comes out. It's never allowed to process. And if we do that for years and years and years, then it comes out in different ways, whether it's a chronic health issue or just your own demeanor over time. It is like, how do you process these in a healthy way as well? And I think about that a
Uh,
lot.
it, if you find a solution, let me know. I mean, it's one of those things that I mean, when I was a teenager, I would bottle everything up, and it would just build up, and out of nowhere, I would explode. I would yell at my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, whoever, and then with that explosion, crying and just uncontrollable release, let's say, of what I've been bottling up for days or weeks. Any trigger could be. I could come home already triggered from school, or I could arrive home and my mom says something that triggers me, or my cat, or whatever. You
Yeah.
know, that trigger would ping, and and just crying, bawling my eyes, like just insane. And every time that happened, I would tell myself I don't want to be like that, but I don't know what to do about it because I would feel weak. I would feel not that it's weak to cry or to let go, but that's how it felt,
Sure.
right? And and that might be something that anger does. Is it gives you the impression that you have control. It gives you the impression that you are powerful because when you're angry and you feel strong, you feel powerful, you have energy, you can respond, you feel that level of, well, let's say it's just power. I don't have another word for it. But when you start crying and releasing all that, and you feel the other side, you feel sad, you feel weak, you're crying, you this, you that, and I'm like, I don't like feeling like this. It was terrible. It was every time that happened to me, I would just not like myself for being that way.
Yeah.
And it took a long time. I want to say until my 20s, and I went through. So this is maybe a personal story. So when we got married, my father-in-law passed away a few months after we got married, and I was listening to your podcast about your own grief, and um, I relate to that because I was like, okay, I felt the same way, but I didn't realize why I was getting angry. I was upset. I was always, on a short leash, and I was trying to figure this out. I went counseling, and the psychologist said one, it was the grief of losing my father-in-law and everything that represented, meaning all the trips, vacations, or the things we had planned to do with him. We were about to move out to an apartment, but that got postponed. My life went on pause, and that I didn't realize that this is what I felt, and this is what's bothering me. And sometimes you can't figure out by yourself. You need the help. You need someone to ask you the questions and really dig in and do the work. And until I got that therapy, which was around 28 years old, is when I kind of dealt with my teenage issues. And um, and since then, I'm much more tempered now. I get angry, yes. I'm Lebanese. We're hot blooded, and we're. I'm married to a Mexican. We're in Mexico. We're anything
Yeah.
happens. Yeah, everybody's angry for everything, so it happens. But I think now I have better control of what I get angry about, and my way of letting it out is talking about it. And yeah, I raise my voice. It's just my way, and it allows me to release what I'm feeling, but it's not targeted. So it used to
Right.
be targeted. I would get angry at work and yell at my wife, or my kid, yell at them because they did something. Now I just share what I've been through throughout the day, or what happened at work, or what happened in karate, or what happened in whatever. So I'm telling the story of why I'm feeling angry or frustrated, and that helps me release it. And then sometimes the voice goes up or whatever, that happens, but then the anger is not targeted. It's just a release. And obviously, it's conversation with my wife and explaining all this, and she knows that I'm just sharing and I just want to let things out. And she does the same when she's frustrated, and that's kind of our way of managing the stress and the pressures of life. Is just
Yeah.
spend a half an hour and we just rant, and rant is over. Okay, put on Netflix and watch the show. Like
Well,
we're ready to go.
really important that I'm hearing as well, which is that the directed versus the non-directed, right? So when you're feeling activated, like, listen, we're human, and anger is an emotion of the human experience. And so I think it's always really funny to look and be like, oh, you're happy? That's allowed. Excited? Yep, that's allowed. Frustrated? Meh, a little bit, but anger? No. And so you've got this wheel of emotion, and you're allowed to have some of these things, and some of them are more also civilized, right? It's just not civilized to say that angry about something, but if you're more nuanced about it, that seems more acceptable. But the idea that we are allowed to experience some of these things but not all of them first is kind of striking, but understandable from a civilization perspective. Understandable, but we're not taught how to process these things either. So when you're angry, so my go-to when I'm angry, I usually cry, or I will go for a run or something
Okay.
physical. Sometimes because but I'm
But
trying to get it processing, right? Like,
but if you're crying, that means that you crossed a threshold,
yeah.
right? So
Well,
you're already overwhelmed.
yeah, sometimes sometimes they're tears of sad, sometimes they're tears of like you're just I am mad, and the way that I process that is tears or um yeah, but it's interesting to experiment with this as well, to like what is your preferred mechanism of dealing with it. And it probably changes too. I'm a figure skater, so I used to go skate my butt off, and that would sometimes help. But it doesn't address always the issue, though, right? Of what the anger is about. And key learnings for me was that emotions, and especially anger, it's data. It's telling us something. You've
Yes.
need that's not met. Someone has crossed a boundary. There's something happening there that if you just treat it and then you go through it, it's going to happen, right? So what is the deeper layer, and how do people like think a little bit differently? Oh,
Do you say it? Do you say I am angry or I feel angry,
I
or do
do.
you keep it?
That's
Okay.
that is brand new. I'm talking months. Like I used to just say it in my head, and now the vocalization of that is huge.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you just keep it in your head, it doesn't work. Like you have to externalize it. I
Yeah.
I used to do that a lot with envy and jealousy, and I would just say, "I'm jealous that you're going with that guy for coffee," and I would just say, you know, or that a colleague of mine has a nice car. Like, ah man, I'm so envious of you. That's a nice car. And just by saying it,
Hmm.
it kind of cancels out because you said it, and then it's done. Like for me, that's how I felt it. So when I would say stuff like that, I'm like, oh, I'm angry about this, and then yeah, but why? You know, and then you start analyzing. You're like, okay, I don't need to be angry for this. That's just fine. You know, and then
Yeah.
why am I envious for this guy? Like he has a nice car, okay, but how about his life? You know, I'm happy with my life. I don't need to be envious about his car. You know,
Yeah.
by just saying it allows you to detach and say, wait a minute. Like, why am I feeling this right now? So by vocalizing, I think is you nailed that one. I think is rather than keeping it in your head, vocalizing it in the moment, not
In the
when
moment.
you're overwhelmed and the emotion went to a different place. It's oh my god, this is nice. I'm so jealous. Like I just say it, and it could be like fun. It could be funny. They could tease you about it and whatever, and then that emotion goes away, and little by little, you're like this jealous, and little by little, that you're less and less and less jealous, and then at some point, you're not jealous as much. You know,
Yes.
and
It's there's a resistance piece of that. You can have a feeling, you can acknowledge the feeling and become aware of it. That in itself,
yeah,
right? So even to say the words angry right now, or I'm feeling whatever, there was a self check-in that happened to become even aware of that in the first instance. And then you're vocalizing it, letting it kind of move. There's something really ironic that happens to us and we don't like it. And we tend to grab onto it, which is weird because we don't like it anyway. But the more resistance that we provide through our own thinking, actions, the more we hold on to this. And so that happens also with trauma and things that we really want to let go. But it's kind of like, don't think of a pink elephant. well, we're all just thinking about it, have this sort of resistance. But I said not to. Like, well, that's not how it works. That's not how our brain is wired. So when you
Agreed.
talk about that processing, I see this resistance reducing, and now it's got the ability to pass through.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I use the word acceptance. You're accepting the feeling. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you resign yourself to it. It's just now that I accept the situation, I can deal with it. This is how I see it.
Yeah.
Whether it's the feeling, whether it's, let's say, I didn't get a promotion at work. Okay, I accept it. I didn't get it. Okay, I can relax about it now. I can move on. I can analyze why did I not get it. Do I need more preparation? Do I need, I don't know, to get an MBA, to get more studies? What do I need to do to get the promotion next time? Now I can think, right? But yeah, I think it's all saying the same thing. It's recognizing and having the humility to recognize it, because that's the other thing. When the anger is there, there's no humility at all. It's all ego. It's all about me. It's all about protecting me. It's all about I got offended. I got insulted. It's all about my own self entitlement about what I lived. That's
Yeah.
what anger does, protecting me. Um, at the moment you let that go, then you can say, I am safe. I'm fine. Nothing happened. I'm going to deal with it now. I'm going to try to figure out what the problem is, and then I can find a solution or try to get to a solution to help me solve that problem.
Yeah. That's powerful stuff. You also you talk about the difference between suppressing anger and channeling it. Can you talk to us about that?
Suppressing anger. I'll use the martial art perspective there a little bit. What I notice is when we spar, especially with new belts or new students, they they get angry, and that's just the emotion of the fight. Is you're getting into a situation, your body recognizes a danger. You're fighting. You're getting hit. You're hitting somebody else, and you start getting angry because it's not going the way you want it to go, which always happens. This is a given. Um, so what do you do then, right? And then they start bubbling up. They start, just tightening their body, and then they can't move because their body is tight. And the fact that it's tight, the movement, the muscles are not allowing you to adjust and do something. When I see that with students, the first thing I say is breathe, relax, loosen up. You're still angry. I'm not telling you not to be angry. I'm just breathe. Just breathe. Just relax. Let your muscles relax so you can do something. So suppressing feelings for me is what freezes you, and that's what does not allow you to move on. And breathing, lying down, taking a nap, eating, going for a walk, going for a run, listening to music, whatever is going to allow you to relax, because anger, you can feel it. You start getting tight, you feel it. You feel it here, you feel it here. You want to yell, you can't. You want to tell somebody off, and you just can't. It's not polite. Let's say you're in the office, you can tell your boss, you know, go see somewhere else if I'm there. Like, you can't, you know, you can't do this, right? So
Yeah.
you bottle it up, it stays there. And you have to learn little by little how to first not take it personal. Most cases, it's not personal. Most situations are not personal. And then from there, develop your own strategies to loosen up, relax, so you can move on, so you can have that conversation, so you can act, behave, or in the case of karate, fight back. Um, but if you're too tight and you're suppressing, that's kind of the parallel I'm doing, is that you just get into your shell and you're there and you're not moving. If you're not moving, that's dangerous for whatever situation you're in, whether self-defense, whether you're at work and you feel frozen and you can't express your opinions. Then you can't move on. You continue being frustrated because, one, you're frustrated because you didn't say what you wanted to say, and then the business goes on to a direction that you don't want it to go because you didn't say what you wanted to say. So it's, a feedback loop.
Yeah.
It's a cycle. Yeah, it's a cycle. So you need to develop. And how do you work that? Through practice, through uh, something as simple as, having a coach and doing, what's the word again? In French, we say mise en scène. Is when you you practice. You have somebody that you're gonna behave as my boss, and I'm gonna try to tell
Oh,
you I don't agree, right?
yes.
And then if you as a coach, you can say, okay, change this way, say this way, what you're trying to say, and you're giving me tools that I can use. Now I've gone through several coaches, and um, they all give me different tools that little by little I started adapting to my own personality and the way I do things. Um, I used to talk a lot and then interrupt and just butt in and just say, no, you're wrong. And slowly, my last coach was like, just wait, listen and wait. If you can't hold it, write down. Write your ideas down. Write what they're saying. Take notes so that you don't forget what you want to say, because sometimes you interrupt because you don't want to forget what you want to say. Sometimes. Right? So write it down. And maybe the comment will come from someone else. And maybe that person talking, maybe he'll say it, whatever you wanted to say. But just be composed. Just hold on, write things down. That's your release. Write things down, and allow your comments in there. I doodle a lot when I'm getting upset. Circles and
Yeah.
little sketches, whatever, and then let that here. But it allows me to listen. It allows me to hear. This is my release, but I can concentrate on what the other person is saying. And then, okay, this is happening, blah, blah, blah. Okay, my first point I wanted to say has been said by this person, so I don't need to say it and I can wait. And I started doing that, and now I feel that I'm in a better position to when I have an opinion, people are listening. Which was one of my own frustration was like, hey, I've said this 10 times, and you guys are not listening. As simple as that. Now it's like, okay, like yes, I've said it, but I won't say that I've said it. I'll just say, okay, let's review this, blah, blah, blah. I have a different way to spin it, or try to think of a different angle or different tone. It's all practice. It's all trying stuff out. And you can see the amount of books I have here, and I have another bookshelf here. It's all self help books, communication books, martial arts books, you name it, philosophy. And I'm reading a lot about this kind of things because every book gives me a small little idea I can implement and try. And little by little, I develop my own way of doing things.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for that. I think a lot of what you're saying too, a couple of times is about space. It's about not letting us react, which is emotion led and usually not the best response. But moving from this reactivity into responsiveness from a slightly less activated place. And so,
Yes.
how do we do that? And what are people's practices for that? And it could be as simple as a breath. It could be as simple as you mentioned the doodling thing. There is something really nice about tactile. I've got like this stone at my desk and some other things where if I get overstimulated or bored or whatever it is,
Yeah.
up and I am intentionally putting my awareness on this thing, whether this thing is you and really listening, or whether it's this or whatever. The breath is great with us, but there's something about just that pause and then making an intentional decision that is kind of a game changer. And it really is a lot of the other tools start there. We can do much else until we get to a little bit more of a calm state, and then we can proceed with XYZ tool or discussion or whatever. So that's a huge piece of it.
Absolutely. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard. But you need to be intentional about this. It's something you want to work at improving. If you just, oh, I don't like doing this and whatever, you're not intentional about developing the tools that you're missing to work on that, it's never going to happen. So it's the awareness comes from the fact that you want to be aware.
Yeah.
You know, I just came up with that, but it's,
Yeah.
it's because you want. I got told by a boss that you're very intentional in the way you work. Yeah, because I want a specific outcome. And if I want that specific outcome, I need to work and do things to get there. And that needs intention, that needs a plan. I might not get it, but I might get close enough, right? So intentionality is for me is a big one, because if there's no desire, if there's no actual I want to be better in
Yeah.
your brain, you're not moving.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. You also talk about rage. I'm wondering if you can talk to us about the difference between anger and rage, or is there a
Yeah.
difference?
I think so. I think rage is like next level. I think it's when you're not longer there. You're no longer there. Your body is reacting. Your emotions are taking over. Your conscious self, let's say, is no longer controlling what you're doing. That's what I think rage is. And just as an example, road rage is a big one. If you look at that person in normal life, you'd be like, that's a normal person. Why is it that in the car they become a monster? And that monster is not them. It's their ego, whatever you want to do, their alter ego, whatever. It's no longer them behaving. When they look at themselves acting the way they did, most often they're not, they'll get ashamed of that because they're like, well, that's not me. I don't do that. I don't even remember doing that, you know? So I think rage is kind of the next phase is when you completely lost control of yourself and you're no longer able to bring it back. And that's usually when problems come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's an important discussion because at the end of the day, we're kind of at a healthy relationship with anger and keep functional and a healthy relationship with all of our emotions. Think about anger specifically. What is it like to have a relationship with that emotion?
Well, let me send that question back to you. Like, well, how do you differentiate the two?
Oh, on rage? Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think anger you start to lose a bit of control, like so you're super activated. When you're in rage, it's like you're right. You just and you lose control. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's probably the differentiation, which is and the control is a bit of a weird word, but is like you've just lost yourself on the rage side, and then when you cool down, you might come to anger, and then you're a little more like, okay, I can probably manage and have to come down off the other side of that. But
Right.
yeah,
Right.
uh, it's almost like a consciousness thing at that point where you've just lost it. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So,
how can you be healthy with that though? Because it's so bad.
yeah.
Um, it's not attaching the word healthy to it is kind of
Well,
incongruent.
yeah, the question was more a healthy relationship with anger and emotions. I don't think you can have a healthy relationship with rage. I think rage is an outcome of not having a healthy relationship with emotions, including anger. And so when I think about particular, but all emotions, like having a healthy relationship, being able to identify it in the first instance, right? That's got to be number one. Like if you're angry or there's something happening there, and you're not used to becoming aware of it because we're not in our bodies. Like one of the questions that I think about is how do I even know when I'm angry? And that sounds like a really dumb question, but actually there is something that happens in my body that tells me that that I'm feeling a certain emotion, and learning the language of my body in a way that I can understand. Oh, yep, that's anger. That is anger. Like for a long time, I called it something else because it's primitive, right? So I think
Yeah.
there's something around just having an understanding of what's happening in our own bodies, and then taking it to the next level where you can to understand why we're that way.
Mm.
And maybe rage is an outcome of not doing that work. There are many, but
Yeah.
having a healthy relationship and you're being ignored. It's kind of like if you're getting sick and you're not paying any attention to it, your body's going to keep, it's not going to walk away. Your body's going to keep trying to give you signals until the signal gets so big you can't miss it.
But then you said the right word there. I think anger is a signal. It's information. Something, something just happened that bothers me.
Yes.
That's not aligned. Let's say I like that word, aligned. It's not aligned with me. You know, whether it's the tone you took with me, whether it's we're gonna take an action step that doesn't align with my values or how I think we should run things. Um, it's there's a signal. I'll give you an example. We're working on creating an association work karate group here, and we're working with a notary, and we're looking at the paperwork. Something weird. The way that he's behaving is weird. You know, so I don't want to give too many details, but it's. So I talked to our teacher. I'm like, "What's going on? Like, why is this happening? You know, why is the rush? What's going on?" So we had that conversation, and I'm like, okay, I get the context, but we are the client. Why isn't notary pushing us to finish the paperwork? Like, it's on us, it's not on him. So he's like, well, that's a good point. And that's because at first I was like, oh, he won't listen to me, blah blah blah. And then that moved to, let me just have a adult conversation with my teacher and say, ask questions. Let's try to see what's going on. Maybe there's something I don't know, which I didn't. And then from that conversation, we were able to come to a conclusion, and not so much a conclusion, but write an action plan. Like, okay, write down what your concerns, send that to me. I'll sit down with notary and talk to him about it. So it was a way, and maybe a few years ago I would have been like, oh, how come this, how come that, and explode. And now it's like, okay, how can I approach my teacher in such a way that I know he's going to listen to me, and that I could or align myself to what's going on, right? Or try to see if we can align the boat to this right path, right? We're going there and we're trying to go here and just change direction and we're going here now. So it's information. It's a signal, I think, anger. When it's in the moment, if you let it stew and fester, it's no longer a signal. It's, I don't know how we call it though. It's another state of mind now. Now you're looking for problems. Now you're looking to fight. You're looking to argue. If you identify the moment as anger, there's a signal. What's going on? That here, I got angry. The secondary emotion was I'm confused. The primary,
Yeah.
we're not aligned in our values. That's the actual feeling, not so much the anger. So if you're able to catch it early, it's information. If you let it grow and get worse and worse, it's not information anymore.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. It does fester and accumulate. So then you might get angry again, and you kind of add to this ball. And actually, to talk about the lens of our lived experience, they call it samskara, and it's like there's no reality. So everybody's reality is siphoned in through our senses, filtered through our lens of experience. So we can have the same experience in the moment, both be remembering it differently and reacting to it differently. And I think about how we develop those lenses, right? And it's obviously our lived experience, but it's also the things that we've chosen to, subconsciously or not, hold on to. And whether it's unprocessed trauma or things that maybe could have been addressed, but then they weren't. So over time it becomes trauma.
Yeah.
And this just and you're carrying all this stuff. Now you're going through life. And the rage thing is still sticking because now you're going through life with all baggage and everything that's happening to you, you're siphoning in. And if you have baggage that says something about a trauma that's never been processed, now everything that comes in is feeding that story, right? And so now it's like the negativity bias, the positivity bias, but you're creating reality from that, and that's really powerful. And that's the work. That's the work to even understand that happens, and then to let these things process so that we can get them when it's signal and not something else.
Yeah.
Helpful.
Yeah.
That other stuff is maybe less helpful.
Yeah, it's like not letting a pebble become a boulder, right? It's or a small snowball becoming, a big one.
Yes.
It's catching in on time,
Yeah.
and but it's hard. I have to admit, it's
It's
hard. If I get all that help, I don't
yeah.
know if we would start now. Like
No, we will not. And I know we've been on, and as we kind of wrap things up today, I mean, really the point was to get people thinking. I think hopefully we've done that and like have a little bit of a conversation and just. And I also wanted to mention your book. When is the book
oh, thank
coming
you.
out? And maybe you could just talk a little bit about what that's about.
Yeah, so it's an experiment. I never considered myself a writer, but I had all these ideas in my head. So I started writing, and figured I would have an ebook available for my subscribers. It's called Steady When It Counts. So steady in terms of emotion, being solid, being present, and it's all about awareness essentially. How to There's a framework in the book that I call about space. It's about creating a space so that you can be safe and go home safely and in one piece, hopefully. So that book goes through different concepts and different aspects of self-defense or self-protection, depending on how you see it. And for example, how to manage crowds, how to what's the difference between self-defense and martial arts. They're not the same thing, in my view. How do you manage difficult situations? So it's all about the moment before the aggression or the violent or the physical altercation. It's how can you not be there, essentially?
Yeah.
just try to identify what's going on and disappear. And that's
Yes.
what the book is about. Uh, I'm going to launch it probably on the 15th of June next week. Is the plan. And if all goes well, I hope people and readers will like it and learn
Yeah. Well,
something.
you kindly gave me a copy, and so I've read not all of it, mind you, but I've read a bulk of it, and I love the way that you've laid it out as well. And it's really, really applicable even to someone who's not into martial arts. So thank you for writing this because I think it's going to help a lot
Thank
of
you.
things a little bit differently and think about things that maybe don't get as much light of day as they deserve. Um,
Thanks.
so thank you for that. Yeah, and the Substack as well. Train, adapt, endure.
Endure. Yeah.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. It was great. I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
All right. You're welcome. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Take it easy. Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.